welcome to The Art of Healing. My name is Julia, and I am an advocate for domestic violence and mental health awareness. I hope to help others find the silver lining in their rain cloud, the strength to face their problems with confidence, and the patience and knowledge to find peace. This is episode 1, and today we are going to talk about being kind to yourself after trauma and how to be accepting of your missteps. Very controlling and traumatic relationship, and I can tell you firsthand that it is not always easy for me to forgive myself for some of the mistakes that I have made. For many of us, it seems almost hardwired into our brains to point fingers of blame at ourselves in traumatic situations. Part of this is because trauma can bring about strong feelings of doubt and guilt. My goal is to help you see that even though these feelings, as intense as they may be, most of the time they are unfounded. It is very easy for many of us to shift the blame onto ourselves and to start to live in a mindset of fear. Fear of being misunderstood, fear of making the same mistakes, fear of not having control over your feelings, and letting your fear decide how you live your life. But one thing we need to be conscious of is the fact that even though living in fear may be something that is second nature to some of us, it is not impossible to overcome these feelings and rewire our brains to think otherwise. Let me ask you a hypothetical question. If you had a friend going through a similar circumstance, what would you tell them? I'm sure you wouldn't answer with something like, well, this may be a little bit too difficult for you to face, or it's really just too hard to deal with these types of things, so avoiding it would be your best choice. One thing I have found is that sometimes it seems so much easier to give the advice you know is right to other people, and it's much more difficult to follow that advice yourself. I have come to realize that if I speak to myself in the same manner that I speak to others, I find that I am much more patient, accepting, and understanding of how I should treat myself. Sometimes I get so sucked up in how I envision how I want things to be, and I stay in the mindset where I feel like I'm stuck. I fear how things will move forward if I make the wrong decision, and instead, I let fear control my way of thinking, or I choose not to decide. One thing that I have learned from a very wise man named Chris Lee is that indecision is actually a decision. We are choosing not to decide, and that continues to let our minds stagnate in a state of fear. Let me explain this thought further with a quote from Deepak Chopra. He says, "If you obsess over whether you are making the right decision, you are basically assuming that the universe will reward you for one thing and punish you for another. The universe has no fixed agenda. Once you make any decision, it works around that decision. There is no right or wrong, only a series of possibilities that shift with each thought, feeling, and action that you experience." Most of us choose indecision because we are too afraid that the consequences of our actions will prove to us that the way we are living is not the correct way. Because we are living in fear, we will never know if that decision may have changed things for the better or not. Most of these decisions are not life-threatening, but our brains, after years of evolution, still tend to lean towards the ideal that they are. Our brains are wired this way because at one point, our decisions were so important, it could determine if we survived or not. Making the decision to hunt or run away from a vicious animal, making the decision to shelter from the elements. Our brains are still trying to catch up to living in a world where these worries are not our main concerns anymore. We no longer have to worry if we're going to get mauled by a lion or die from exposure to the elements. But that still doesn't stop our brains from making us feel like speaking up during a meeting, asking someone out, or asking for a raise is life-threatening. We try to rationalize how those things could be harmful to our health, and we avoid them. What we need to try and teach ourselves is that our choices may radically impact our lives, but most of the time, it is not life or death. And if we treat it as such, we will continue to live in fear and never overcome the struggles we face every day. We need to understand that living in indecision will only one day cause us to regret the fact that we let our choices come from fear and from judgment. Now I'm sure that many of you are wondering, if I made a choice that led to a negative circumstance, doesn't that prove that it was the wrong choice? My answer to that is no. Every choice we make is a learning experience. The only way that I would consider a choice to be the wrong one is if you chose not to learn from that and you continue to do the same things. This is where being kind to yourself and accepting of your mistakes comes in. I believe that we are put through trials so that we can learn from them and move forward with a newfound confidence that we are strong for pushing through. I believe that we experience pain so that we can help others in the future through similar circumstances. Even though I know these things, I sometimes will still be really hard on myself for these mistakes. But one thing I've learned in life is that making yourself your own worst enemy will not help you at all. It will only cause you harm in the long run. We need to try and stay focused on the present and what we can do right now to make things better. I know this is easier said than done for some of us, depending on the circumstances we are facing. But sometimes just a little bit of positivity can go a long way. And I know that right now this may be extremely difficult for many of us because quarantine has left us unable to receive the help that we normally would receive. But regardless of the situation you're in, you have the ability to take a step back and find some small way to help yourself heal. A warm cup of tea or coffee, dancing around the house to your favorite music, spoiling yourself with a delicious snack. There are so many ways that we can build ourselves up, and the first of those is finding gratitude in even the smallest things. This was something I struggled with while being isolated with my abuser. With no freedom of opinion, thought, or decision most of the time, it seemed impossible to feel grateful for anything at all. It was also not easy to feel this way while I struggled with bullying in school, or while I struggled with opiate addiction and MRSA, which left me in the hospital for a year. And I still face challenges daily, dealing with chronic pain, CPTSD, and mood swings. One thing I am also always thankful for is the fact that I am alive and breathing. Like I mentioned earlier, some days I was literally fighting to stay alive. And with the cloud of depression hanging over my head, some days I wished for an easy escape. But I came to realize that being thankful for every day I am alive sometimes helps me the most. Being alive means that you have survived the challenges thrown at you this far. And it also means that there is a chance for tomorrow to be better. There are many things that most of us take for granted every single day. Having food on the table or a roof over our heads. Having family or friends that love and support you. Having a means of transportation. And having the freedom to express yourself. If you can say that you have all of these things, then you are doing better than most others in the world. No matter what challenges you may be facing in your life, one thing I urge of you to understand is that you are not alone. And if you feel like no one can understand what you are going through, that's only because you may not have reached out to find others to help support you. I can guarantee that if you put in a little effort, you will be rewarded with the genuine friendship from others who know how to help you with what you are dealing with. If you need a safe space to connect with others to vent, I have created a Facebook group called the Healing Journal Project. There are so many wonderful people in that group that are amazingly supportive, and me and the other admins do a really good job of making sure that it's a safe space to keep you motivated and get you through your day. My challenge for you today is to throw out indecision. If you've been struggling with making an important decision, think it through and make a choice. Realize that making no choice is choosing to be stagnant. Realize that you can't wait forever, and the longer you wait, the more opportunities you are going to miss out on. And once you do make a decision, be kind to yourself if that decision doesn't turn out exactly the way you hoped it would. use that as a learning experience to grow stronger and make a better decision next time. Before I end the show, I would just like to thank everyone that has helped me get this far. It has not been an easy journey for me, but there are many people that have supported me in my endeavors and continue to support me to this day. I honestly don't know if I ever would have made it this far without the love, compassion, and support I have received from my family and friends. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and if you aren't, don't ever be afraid to reach out to me or to join the Healing Journal Project. Let's heal our souls, grow, and create something beautiful together.
Hey guys, thanks so much for tuning in to my first episode. Please don't forget to give me a like and subscribe, and also follow me on the social media platforms. Don't forget to check out the Healing Journal Project group on Facebook, and I'll see you again soon. Have a great day.